This conference will now be recorded.
Good day. This is Harold Watson, Committee Chairman of the Housatonic Greenway Complete Streets Subcommittee. We are conducting this special monthly meeting on GoToMeetings.com on Wednesday, March the 15th at 12 noon. The quorum for this meeting is 6, and I will now call the following elected members to speak up as present. Karen Burke.
Here.
Tom Dillon.
I am here.
Ellen Frank is absent. Christopher Green.
Here.
Nels Pearson is here. George Perham is absent. Jennifer, I don't see her. She's absent. James Simon is absent. Myself, Harold Watson, is here. And Planning Board member Sarah Graham is here.
Here.
That gives us a quorum. I also don't see Karen Radia, so she's absent. So essentially, we are picking up from where we were on the 1st when we weren't able to have a quorum. So I'd like to, after calling the meeting to order, I'd like someone to give me a motion to approve the minutes of February.
So moved.
Seconded.
Second.
All in favor? Anybody opposed? No. Okay. The next thing that I'd like to do is to, I'm going to turn this over to Susmitha because I would like her to discuss the pathway study and plan, which I'd ask everybody to read. Can I assume that everybody actually went and read that 2008 pathway plan?
I'm just going to catch up on that. Did that get sent out as a link?
I don't know that it did, but it's on the website of our list of documents.
Okay, I'll catch up with that right after we leave.
Can you just name it one more time? I have a list of things I did here. Can you just name what that is again one more time?
The Stratford Pathways Study and Plan from 2008. And that's what we used when we rewrote the 2013 POCD, but it still is substantially the plan that we're going by. It's been modified by Complete Streets on Main Street, but the rest of it still establishes our network of greenways from Stratford Point to the North Woods. Let me just.
So it's called Stratford Plan 2008?
Yes.
Okay.
Stratford Pathways Study.
Elaine, can you make me the presenter? Okay, can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
So if you go to the Town of Stratford webpage, go to Planning and Zoning, and go to Current and Recent Planning Projects, scroll down, and you'll see the Greenway and Pathways. So this is the Pathways Study and Plan that was prepared in 2008. I believe Harold is mentioning about this, but then you also have another study that was done, I think, quite recently. And this was done in 2016, and this was an analysis of the segment in front of Shakespeare property, which is the phase 2 of Greenway. So before the consultant was hired to actually prepare designs for phase 2, he was asked to prepare this study that shows a breakdown of from which street to which street, what kind of route, how much would it cost, what are the issues and everything. So the consultant prepared this estimate. So this is the design report for that. And if you look at this in the table of contents, I'm gonna just scroll back up. I went too fast. But if you look at the table of contents, you can see that he did an existing condition assessment for each street. And then he looked at the traffic volumes, speed limits, the intersections, utilities, points of interest, and then the future conditions assessment if the Greenway was going to be along this route, and the cost estimation. This was very useful to prepare the preliminary design plans for phase 2 of Greenway. I think what Stratford should do is do a similar study for phase 3. So if you look at the pathway study and plan, this is the overall vision for greenways and pathways. Greenways, I don't know, like, you know, it's very confusing how the Greenway term is used interchangeably with complete streets term. So when you're applying for a grant, you're looking at, you know, the same segment, but for complete streets and, you know, greenways, and both have, you know, slightly subtle differences in the way, you know, the road would be configured. I think for the POCD's sake, the first line item should be to clarify which routes would fall under complete streets and which routes would specifically fall under greenways. And if you look at this map here, this is the overall vision. And I'm going to quickly scroll through this because I want to bring your attention to another document which was recently prepared. But, you know, this vision shows that the Greenway typically runs along the waterfront side. And if I go back to the Complete Streets document, this is the Complete Streets final plan. And I think the vision here is more internal, like on Main Street, Ferry Boulevard, you know, more in the interior sections of Stratford and not along the coast. So if you go down all the way to the end of the document, I'm gonna put this. So you have, for each boulevard, you have a, you know, recommended design, and you have recommendations, total cost breakdown, construction costs, how it would look like in a street section view. But this is all outdated information now because the costs are like, you know, I think it's almost 7 years back, and these costs have to be updated too. So if you look at Ferry Boulevard, for example, on this is, you know, identified as a complete streets route and complete streets plan. But if you go back to the Greenways pathway study, the same Ferry Boulevard is identified as a Greenway route. So my confusion has been in applying for grants, like, do we apply for the same thing, or, you know, in 2 different grant types, or should we just say Greenway will stick to only by the water, and, you know, if you're doing anything beyond the water, you know, it should be complete streets. So we had a trails and grants application put in by our grants office earlier this year, and they shared with me what they prepared to submit for a Greenways and Trails grant. And why is it not? Okay, yeah. So this is, they would like to do a master plan of the Greenways and Trails. They meaning, you know, Greenway Committee will be involved in this. It's just a grant application that was submitted, and Harold was very supportive and provided a letter of support for this grant. But the vision, again, if you see, the Greenway vision is by the waterfront and not any interior routes here. So I think the first step is to clarify, what do we want to do? And, you know, how do we want to do it? Comes the second step. The first step is, if you all agree with this vision, of course, if you're awarded this grant, there will be an opportunity to do a master plan and look at each trail segment and see how they connect with the points of interest in the town and what kind of, configurations they would have, and what impacts, if any, to the roadways that exist right now. But something to think about, and I will go back to this pathway study once again. This is very confusing, but trust me, this was the very first document, even before the Complete Streets document was prepared. And it looks like they want to connect Paradise Green to Longbrook Park, to Booth Memorial Park, and connect to the existing Housatonic River Greenway to Short Beach. So you're connecting all the recreational areas in the town. The next step for Greenway would be phase 3. Logically speaking, the phase 1, if you see the map, let's go back to this map. I think I'll take a master map and show you in this document. Okay, so I think we need a bit better map than this. Okay. We do have our existing Greenway. Let me go to the Stratford map aerial. This is the existing Greenway here. And the second, and it runs from here. And the second phase would connect this via Elm Street from here. Till here is the existing Greenway, and then from here, Elm Street, it goes all the way up, and then goes in front of the Shakespeare property, goes all the way here, takes a left on Broad Street, and comes and intersects Complete Streets over here, near West Broad Street. So these two segments are done, and the third segment should logically begin from this Elm and Broad intersection, or maybe over here to be Ferry Boulevard and Broad over here, and could possibly take the Ferry Boulevard route, or take a right and go the Housatonic Avenue route, and then go all the way to Minor Avenue, and then take a turn and then go on Ferry Boulevard again, and then go underpass and meet the Dock Shopping Center. The challenges associated with Ferry Boulevard being the main route for Greenway, like I can show you in the street view. This is how it looks like right now. There is private property on this side, and there is not enough room to put a bike lane on this road, and this is a heavily traveled road. It requires a lot of changes to the road diet in order to accommodate a Greenway route along Ferry Boulevard. I wouldn't call it a Greenway because it's not by the water. I would say Complete Streets route.
Samantha,
So,
why don't we just cut over to Housatonic? I mean, it's a beautiful road,
mhm.
water view all the way down.
That is true. I agree with you, but then that would require planning. Like we need a consultant who would study this route, educate the residents in the area. They should be, a lot of residents may be resistant to having bicyclists go in front of their homes because it's a very private road right now. If you look at the road, it looks like it's very quiet, and this would require minimum work. You don't have to actually, I don't know if it's DOT owned, I think it's a local road, so you have to just repaint and stripe it. But then there are challenges here too, like after a point, you cannot.
But Smith, if
open-
I can interrupt you for 1 second, that's the difference between a greenway and a complete streets.
Mhm.
A greenway does not have to be as intensive in terms of the development of it. It accepts that it's a local road. The other thing that I want to just make a comment on is that the East Coast Greenway currently is mapped as running right through that area. So whether we like it or not, people that are following the East Coast Greenway across the country are following Ferry Boulevard because that's mapped as the East Coast Greenway. It's beyond Stratford. It's a regional route.
And I live actually at the corner of Minor and Housatonic. There are a lot of bikers who do come by already on that route. They definitely are using, that path to stay off of the high traffic of Ferry, and because it's a nice view. The resistance definitely would come if it is eliminating parking on one side of the street to paint a permanent line. That will be tough, I think, in the neighborhood versus just having it be sort of the route. But I don't know. Either way, I think it's possible, and it's too bad that we didn't get to work some of this into the Ferry Boulevard work that was already just done. But
Yeah.
But
So
again, that's the difference between a greenway and complete streets. A greenway accepts that all of these multimodal vehicles are sharing the road. It is not it's not exclusive to just, you don't have exclusivity to any one form.
okay,
And
so
generally they're held within a neighborhood. They're considered to be a neighborhood system of trails. Sorry.
the reason we need a consultant is because after a point, it gets tricky. You don't know, Housatonic Avenue ends here near Minor Avenue. So you don't know if you should take left on Minor, go on Ferry, deal with DOT, see how we can accommodate a lane here, and then take it all the way to Riverview Restaurant here, where you would need a public access easement here, but then there is an existing easement here for DOT, and that the town needs to obtain, and then go under this underpass to meet the Dock Shopping Center. Or you can keep the route on Ferry Boulevard, or you can go back and Bird Place here and maybe seek an access easement through this residential area, and then see if there's any easements that you can take here. So there's quite a bit of thinking involved for how to proceed from this point onwards. And that's why, it's not as simple like taking a concept plan and implementing it. You have to figure out which routes are the most feasible, cost-wise, implementation-wise, and technicality-wise, and try to make sure that you have the community support to actually go ahead and do those changes to the roadway. Even if they're local roads, you still need a lot of thinking to be done, and especially if you want to put it in Ferry, then you need DOT's permission to do that.
Is this something that if we were to hire a consultant, we already have the money for, or we have to raise the money through a grant, or how does that work?
Right now, we are just doing phase 2 Greenway planning. And that also, it's been quiet for some time, and I've requested our partners, MetroCog, who are administering the project, to arrange for a bi-weekly meeting with the consultant so that I can speed up that phase 2 planning. This is something you can either, I don't know how to put this. I mean, if you have the bandwidth to tackle another project right now, this would be something that you should consider. Otherwise, our efforts would be over here right now in the town center. So right now we have our complete streets going on. Where's the town center? Traffic killer. This is Volkswagen. So this is our phase 1 ends here near Barnum and Maine, and our phase 2 planning will be from this point on all the way to Wilcoxon, past Paradise Green. We're going to do at least till this Windsor Avenue, I think. And we're going to do planning for that segment to see how we can fit in Complete Streets phase 2. Like I said, if you want to stick on the Housatonic Avenue side, then it'll be a Greenway project, not a Complete Streets project. You can apply for a Greenway grant for planning, design, and construction, then you can study that route as a Greenway project. So you can have 2 parallel projects. You can have a Complete Streets project that we are doing right now, but you can also have a Greenway project by the river. But if you choose to go only by Ferry Boulevard, like if the group thinks that we have to be absolutely on Ferry Boulevard, then it will become a Complete Streets project. So it'll be like phase 3 of Complete Streets, which would take time. That's all I have to say.
Can I ask a question again?
Yes.
So again, and I really don't want to derail the conversation. It's just, I remember those conversations about Ferry Boulevard. I mean, they were saying everything that you're saying now, that we had to hire a consultant to study the road, to look at the DOT rules. And I don't understand. That's what we did. I worked on this. There were measurements taken. There were drawings made. They were, look at this product that we could have. This is what I was told we could have if we worked really hard at it. And it just, I'm not sure what changed to just say, oh, that can't happen. Why can't we do what we started out to do? This is, I remember the charrettes and the whole thing. You were there. Like, why can't this be done? Why can't that Ferry Boulevard drawing as we designed it years ago be done?
Can I add on something that Tom just said? That the simple fact is it is being used as a greenway right now by bicyclists and walkers. Most of these roads that we're talking about planning for the future are being used right as we speak. So is there anything in an interim? I don't care if it's a single stripe. I don't care if it's a signage just at the intersection where the turn needs to be made. Can we do that as an interim as the Greenway, understanding that 5 years from now we might be doing a Complete Streets improvement? Because Complete Streets is much more of a concept of improving and optimizing an area, particularly an urban area, versus a Greenway, which is understanding what is being used neighborhood to neighborhood travel. And that's
I hear you, Earl. I kind of am asking for, I don't understand what changed from hiring the consultant to paying the money to doing these drawings. What changed that makes all that planning and those years of effort not doable anymore? I don't understand.
So Tom, here's the answer. Very simple. Time. I think it's past the time. Like if we had implemented it in the time window when everybody supported the project, maybe it would have been different. Right now, like 6 years down the lane, the costs are different. Staff at DOT has changed. There's a turnover probably in the number of residents who participated in the project and who supported the project. DOT has been extremely difficult on our Main Street project, which is right on in front of the town hall with, enough roadway width. And they were so, we had to work with them for nearly 3 years to get our phase 1 approved. And we're still waiting for them to officially approve our bid documents.
I find it's just been an incredible irony, because I remember back in those meetings all those years ago, the consultant was like, you should do Ferry Boulevard first. Do it right now. And I got to tell you, I'm going to kick myself forever for this. We decided that it was more important to put it in people's faces and opted for the Main Street section that's still to be built. But I got to tell you, it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. It's just like, wow, we had it. This is a tree-lined pedestrian pathway to a commercial center. And I'm just very,
But here's my
I
other comment.
I don't love it,
Here's my other comment that
start over again. If we hire a consultant and do all the things that we did and get all the costs, it's still going to be 5 or 6 years before it clears DOT and we do anything. It's a little.
So, Tom, there is a difference between this planning and the complete streets implementation planning or phase 2 implementation planning.
Yeah.
This is a conceptual illustration of how you want to accommodate a complete street. It's your vision. You want, place-making elements here. You want rain gardens. You want neat little bike boxes. And there's a lot of things here. This is a concept. Now, when you go back to your complete street, 60% designs, and these are the drawings, a lot of the 90% designs actually, a lot of this has changed. So if you look at the final design plans, you don't have all those elements that you thought you would have because,
not even close.
Yes, DOT cut off a lot of things from this. They didn't even want a bike lane anywhere close to Barnum Avenue. So the bike lane ends near Town Hall, and from then on you're going on the sidewalk. And if you look, that's the next level planning. I mean, the concept is good. That people want something along this route. Some of these people,
even if you take the Main Street Town Hall to Barnum section, when we did the original vision drawings, the charrettes, we had said that the bike lane is going to move off the road onto the sidewalks at that time. That was our solution, which is where we have ended up 5 years later.
No, I think it's partially approved as off the street and then partially on the street. I don't know why my echo.
Maybe because I raised my voice. My apologies.
I had to join on the phone, so I'm on the phone now.
Okay.
Oh, hi, Jennifer.
No, it's Sarah. I got off of the video. I'm on the way to the airport in California, so I'm on the phone now.
Lucky you.
I did.
Just move forward too. You know what I mean? We got to keep moving forward. But I did want to say that.
The other thing that I want to make a comment is every single road that you see in these vision plans are state roads. So every single road, we don't have the say. We have got to work with DOT in terms of what they're willing to do. But not all of our Greenway designs are on state roads. That is the interconnecting network of neighborhood to neighborhood, of school to school. And that was critical in terms of doing the original design, was safe travel for kids going to school, safe travel for neighborhoods. It's a much improved version of what we have for Stratford Walks. That's really picks up on where we had talked about riding in your neighborhood, riding and walking. parking. Let me be
If you look
clear.
at this document, Tom,
Yeah.
you had a Greenway concept plan and the Greenway pathways and studies, pathway study, and then you took that concept and then you elaborated. This is the next level planning, and you look at street characteristics, segment by segment. You see how many feet of width it has, how much width it has. What are the challenges? You look at the traffic volumes. Then this is actually, this is exactly what I'm trying to say. This was your, let's just imagine this was your complete streets plan and you put all your effort into this. You still need a next level planning to figure out this and say, you're going to put something on the ground. You have to show everything inch by inch. Where does it go? How does it turn? How, what is the traffic light there? What's the traffic volume there? And, all those details. That's why you need to do that next level study. Your concept has helped the town to adopt a complete streets policy and plan. It has helped the town to go ahead with the phase 1 preliminary designs, moving to 30, 60, and 90% design stage, getting it to the 100% design stage with DOT, and finally getting it onto the ground pretty soon. You have to do the same level of planning for Ferry Boulevard also.
So what do you suggest we do? What do you think would be the best route for us?
I think I suggest we keep writing grants till we get one and do this phase 3 planning and design, unless the town has money to do the planning on its own.
As Greenway or complete streets?
I would say if that is something you all have to decide. I mean, that's why this committee is for. And if you think Housatonic Avenue is a better route and, you want to stick by the waterfront, then, you can just apply as a Greenway. But if you want to do as Ferry Boulevard, then you have to apply as a complete streets project.
Personally, I think we should stay to the water. I mean, that's the asset of this town. And, I know, Chris, you live on Housatonic, and it may not be great for that particular street, but it's a beautiful street. And
No, I think it's a good route. I was just letting you know, right, that especially if it's going to take up one side of parking, that it'll be tough to get past. I agree, it's a great place.
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying, but to me, that's the route I would want to ride. I live next to Ferry Boulevard. I don't even want to walk on Ferry Boulevard.
Right now, I mean, I bike it already. A lot of people do. That's my point, is especially what Harold's talking about is low impact ways to make it work there. And the biggest thing for me is focusing on the pain points, connecting. Like to me, the work on the bridge right now, Route 1, that work has been going on for a while. Exit 33 has done what it's supposed to. That bridge is fine with one lane either way. I'm surprised that there is no effort to make it more pedestrian friendly to get over that bridge, because it's clear, especially with exit 33, there's reduced traffic there, and that would be that's a dangerous place, right? Anything beyond Housatonic and into there, that's where we have to figure out the best ways to do it. That's going to take a lot to turn Housatonic into a path that people use. It already is usable. It already is friendly as is without any major adjustments. It's about those other areas connecting, how we're going to get through, that's really going to make it useful or not.
Exactly. I kind of agree with Chris on this one, because the reality is, like, for locals, for people around, you look, to duck down Housatonic Avenue, you don't need a bike lane. It's a quiet street. You can enjoy it all day long. No problem. Anybody can deviate down to the water without any modification. We don't have to use a drop of paint, and people can just duck down the road, see.
But Tom, if I can interrupt
But
you,
hold on, let me finish. I would like to finish. The Ferry Boulevard ultimately is the choke point. That hideous turnaround down by the bridge, down by the Bagel Boutique now, that weird underpass under the highway into the dock. Those are the real crown jewels to connect this into a more pedestrian-friendly community. That turnaround area is a nightmare, and getting through there in any way is going to be the crux of the problem. So I feel like we have to dive into the crux of the problem, and it's Ferry Boulevard, and it doesn't look, if it can't be what it was I hoped for, which was a tree-lined pedestrian pathway from a neighborhood to a commercial district. You know, let's get what we can. But the Housatonic Avenue, you're talking about thousands of hours of work to get 300 yards in a place that you can go already. You can just go there.
Harold, you're going to say something?
I actually that I agree so much with Tom, and that this is an example of, I fought with the DOT when they were doing the intersection there, and I got a commitment out of them that they were going to put in at the minimum 3 feet bike trails on the sides of the road. That didn't happen. So our effort, understanding that goes back decades, that is a choke point that we need to work on. We were not helped by the DOT when they put those intersections in at all. So now we're still stuck with the same problem. But the problem is that I bet you if someone sat there for a week with a meter during the summertime, the number of bikes that travel across the Washington Bridge between Milford and Stratford on a unmarked Greenway is huge.
Yep.
And people who travel with knowledge understand some of the dangers, but that still is a trail. It's a natural trail that if it was a, an animal marking trail, they would understand, we use that as a trail. And if we are going to try to increase the safety, the only reason we need greenways to begin with is to try to increase the safety and also create a directional flow to give people an idea of where they should be traveling and the dangers even of traveling there. So I think that whatever we do, we've got to understand the traffic flow is real, exists now. It's not something that can wait for 10 years. The travel on Main Street exists now. People are hitting every obstacle, every intersection, every driveway, all those things are being hit. We've had 5 people die on bikes and walking in Stratford in the last 3 years.
Well, we can go under the bridge. I understand we'll take work and planning and all of that, but technically we can go under the bridge, correct?
Under the bridge onto the dock shopping, yes.
I mean, you can physically do it, but I got to tell you, I mean, I would rather propose putting another human being on the surface of the moon. What is the likelihood of them doing that? I mean, Susmita, is there any hope of that?
We own the money. I mean, we own. We own the right of way there.
This is, I don't know. It's a tough one because it really is. It is there, and there's that boat launch in the. There's a dock like right there on the Riverview parking lot, and an empty parking lot on almost all days. But boy, I don't know. I don't know if that's real. I don't know if that would ever happen in a million years. So Smita, we got to lean on you on this one. I mean, building a bike path under a bikeway next to a river.
Well, I think we do have an accessway easement, and there is a way you can do it with minimal impact. DEEP will be the reviewing body. But I must say, like DOT, the commissioner changed, a lot of senior staff retired, everybody's pretty new there, they're still hiring, and we did have one meeting with their assistant supervising transportation planning director, and he seems pretty open to complete streets and multimodal network promotion in the town.
Right.
He's not the one who's going to review this. That's the problem. Like, you have a traffic division and District 3 will review this, and they're still focused on mobility for cars and congestion elimination, making sure that roadways are safe for everyone. So that line of thought, I mean, it can't beat the other things. I feel like they're still so set in stone for them. So I asked this guy who we met for a POCD meeting the other day as to how New Haven gets everything, and they would allow this bike lane right off of 95, whereas we as a community have to push so hard to just get the bike lane closer to Barnum Avenue. And they said that moving forward, communities need not have to compete for doing, bike lanes and things that have, other communities have already demonstrated success on. So it looks very positive. It looks very optimistic, but I can't tell who's a reviewer. A lot depends on who's reviewing our plans and how they're interpreting their guidelines and implementing those on the community.
Okay, well, that's good. I mean, so you had that conversation about all the amazing things they did in New Haven, and what I heard you say is that they seem to indicate that that was, an example of what could be done in the future, as opposed to, this incredible exception that's been made.
They said that they transferred that right of way to the city. So it's no longer DOT owned, it's the city owned right of way.
Oh.
And made it an urban boulevard. And then the city had more control on what they could do on that.
Interesting. Did you also, there was this issue of once a town has a complete streets policy, that there was supposed to be a budget allocated for every time the state touched a state road. Did you find out anything about that?
No.
I still, Harold, I mean, I remember you saying that 100 times over when we were working on passing the complete streets policy. The promise was, hey, once we get this done, once the town council approves it, anytime a shovel touches a state road, they had to allocate a real monetary budget towards complete streets. And I just, if that's not real, I want to drop it. But if it's real, we gotta leverage that.
It is, Tom, but my understanding of it is that instead of taking the actual project budget, the DOT has been taking the whole budget and allocating out of that. So that's part of where we got some of our funds for our complete streets is out of that. But as written, the law says that each project, when shovels go in, must include improvements for alternative forms of transportation.
And do you have any idea how we can track down that actual law so we can just kind of roll it up and swap somebody with it?
Start reading the DOT websites.
No, I mean, if it's a law, it's a statute. It's got a number, it's got a clause.
It came about in 2014.
I don't know how to track that down, but okay.
But Tom, I can tell you that they are funding a lot of these projects through local transportation capital improvement program, which we avail to do our phase 1, and we are getting money for phase 2 implementation. There's also another program called Community Connectivity Grant Program. But for all these programs, you need shovel-ready projects. So you definitely would need that advanced level planning. And in case of phase 2 of complete streets, the town is putting money to do the designs, and we're matching it up with the LOTSIC money to implement. For the community connectivity grant, it rolls out every year, I think in January, but you do need projects that have finished that advanced level planning. So if you were to do that advanced level planning for the route you choose as most logical, whether it's Ferry or Housatonic, and you don't have to decide right now. Maybe you can bring a consultant and he would analyze which is the most suitable route based on how feasible it is and technical issues and costs and this and that. So then you can use those preliminary designs to apply for the community connectivity grant so you can get the dollars for constructing or implementing.
All right.
I have something to say and then a question. So, Tom, we could probably ask the town attorney to look up that statute. And then the second thing is, if, again, I'm confused. So if we want to if we want to go forward and say, this is what our plan would like to be, but we have to hire a consultant to do that first to figure out all the technicalities and all of that, where do we get the money for that?
Good question. Right now, I think we are using capital improvement program money for phase 2 of Complete Streets. So, I mean, you will be heavily involved in that phase 2 planning. I don't know if you have the bandwidth to take on another project, considering that we're meeting once a month in noon time only. So maybe something to consider after this is done. This is a year-long project, and maybe in the next year's CIP, once that project takes off ground, that's when you can think about the next project. And in the meantime, we are always open to, keeping our eyes open for grants to write. So maybe if there is a grant that we should write, we should definitely write for this.
Is that, would that be the
one?
consultant?
Sorry?
I'm sorry, would that be to hire the consultant?
That would be to do the advanced planning and analysis for the concept laid out in the Greenway study plan for, Housatonic River / Ferry Boulevard route. There was a Greenways and Trails grant that was recently announced, and the town applied, but they applied for a master plan for trails with that money. So we did not apply for this planning, but we applied for the master plan. I think the master plan is also good enough because it will not only touch on this route, but it'll touch on all the routes. And now you have a master plan that looks at something leg by leg for every single route. But the only catch there is you still need some preliminary design drawings to be prepared in order to submit for a grant application for implementation. So if the town gets that master plan trails grant awarded, maybe whoever you hire as the consultant, the scope of work should be written in such a way that they will pick the priority route and prepare preliminary designs for that priority route as part of that study. They not only study the entire, trails and network leg by leg, but you also ask them to pick one priority route and work on advanced design drawings for that, like preliminary design drawings, which you can use to apply for construction.
Okay, I just want to echo what you said to make sure I understand. So if we get this grant, perhaps we can use part of that grant to act as a consultant for us to come up with the designs and what the problems might be and the potential solutions. And when will we, is that true?
Yeah, but it's not something that I wrote. It's something that I think Kelly Kerrigan, Conservation Superintendent, has worked on it. So we should talk to her to express what is it that the Greenway Committee would like to see ideally as part of this. Chances are, I don't know how much the grant is for, if there is budget to accommodate something like that. So I don't want to be too much optimistic about it, but if there is a way, then we can.
Yeah, thank you. I follow what you're saying. Thank you.
And it's my understanding that Kelly's grant is doing an inventory of all of our right-of-way lands in Stratford. So in terms of if there's any possibility of doing anything off-road, we at least will have a current map of where Stratford owns right-of-ways.
For the next month's meeting, I am going to bring POCD update recommendations for greenways and complete streets. So I request you all to please make yourselves available to that meeting to comment and critique, because that's your only opportunity, I think. Our consultant contract is timed in such a way that by April end, they will prepare a final draft and send it to outside agencies for their review and feedback to follow the statutory guidelines for reviews. Like they have 65 days to review and offer feedback to us, and then we change the draft and finally adopt the plan. So our next month meeting is going to be the most important meeting for you all. Whatever goes in the plan will be there for 10 years in that plan. So I just request you to be looking out for that draft, I'll send something in advance so you can review it and then, come with your comments to the meeting.
Thank you, Susmitha. Before we close, because we're really out of time, or almost out of time, was there anything else, Susmitha?
That's all.
I just want to raise the issue of the Main Street Festival is coming up again, the beginning of May. And last year, I thought it was very successful. We did the parking corral. Is there interest in doing it again?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
I should rephrase that. Is there interest in your helping us to do it again?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I'll volunteer to help out for sure.
Okay.
Yes.
Harold, the festival is Saturday, June 3rd, not the beginning of May.
I'm sorry. I thank you.
It's 23rd. What's the date?
If someone just said June 3rd.
Saturday, June 3rd.
Yeah, so far, unless,
And I am supposedly, Tom is putting me in touch with the people from Connecticut Ride,
Yeah, CT Rides.
CT Rides, which is a component of CT Walks, and they might be interested in sharing our booth. I'll get Rotary to donate our booth like I did last year. Hopefully we'll get the Public Works to put up our fence and all of that stuff. And I would assume, Jim's not here, but I would assume also we'll do the ride that we did in the past, a big ride down to the coast and back. So do we want to vote on this since we have a,
yeah, let's do it.
Aye.
aye, anybody against it? Okay, good. I see John Casey just added himself to our list. John, do you want to give any update on the WPCA and in terms of its impact on the Greenway in that area?
We are surveying the road today, actually, to get a detailed survey so we can have that section of sidewalk on Beacon Point Road to be designed. That's where we're at right now.
Oh, good. So guys walk or ride around that area and you'll see there's a lot happening in that area. Do we anticipate that any of that's going to be closed for biking and walking?
Not until we start the WPCF project. When we start that, at some point, we're going to be building the wall on Beacon Point Road that will be, pretty disruptive. So that's unknown. The schedule on that's unknown. Yeah, we haven't. Once we bid the project out and get the contractor on board and look at the schedules, then we'll know approximately when that would be happening.
But I would assume that's 4 to 6 months at best, right?
Oh yeah, next fall, next spring.
Okay. I thank you.
No problem.
Anybody want to make any other comment?
I walked down there the other day, and I don't know if anybody here would know this, but the benches at the end, down by the softball field, they've been removed. Is that temporary or is that permanent? Is that scheduled to be replaced? I don't know if anybody would know.
One of those were removed because of vandalism.
Right.
Oh,
The patio was vandalized, and then one of the benches was vandalized, and then they were gone. So
Yeah,
just
that's
wondering-
I think why they took it out.
what happened?
Vandals broke the bench and threw the cobblestones in the mud flats.
Oh my goodness.
The only thing we'll have to put a camera up on, some pole in that area, but I think we should wait until after the seawall and the mud flats are cleaned up before even raising it as an issue. Any other comments?
I was just wondering on that 2008 original Greenway plan that Susmitha showed earlier. I don't know that I have that anywhere. I was just looking at my folders. I have a lot of other PDFs, but could you send that one out again, or is it just online that I can?
It is online. If you type in Stratford Pathway Study and Plan 2008,
Okay.
and I believe that it was actually done by MetroCog, Metropolitan Planning. Make sure you get the revised one though, because there's all this red text that was actually worked on when I first came on planning in 2015. I mean, when I first came on Greenway in 2015, I think it was. So although it says 2008, it was something that the then Greenway committee kept revising as conditions changed.
Okay. And then my only other question, and this is just me trying to catch up because I've been missing meetings. In the 2016 plan, there was a lot of talk of Elm Street as part of the Greenway with, widening the lanes there. Did that, and now the discussion has shifted to either Housatonic or Ferry Boulevard.
No, that project is already in the books. That project is ready to go as soon as Main Street starts.
Okay.
There are constraints put up on it. It's staying on the main road. In a couple places, it's going on the sidewalk, but rarely. It's almost all going to be street marking. So it'll show less intensive use of the roadway, not as full complete streets development with separate travel lanes and all of that. It'll all be on the same lane. But the traffic volumes on Elm Street are very low to begin with.
Right. Okay, that helps catch me up. Thanks.
But that's an example between complete streets and the Greenway, because Elm Street is a local road that was designed by the Greenway Committee. All of Broad Street and Elm Street was all put on paper by the Greenway Committee. Then we brought in the consultants and said, help us improve this as much as we can when it got combined onto the Complete Streets project. So that was an example of two separate initiatives working together as one.
Right, yeah, because in the 2016 Greenway extension document, it's considered part of a Greenway plan, right, where it's just talking about the Bird's Eye section, the Elm Street section, et cetera.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly. That's because while we were doing planning and design, or trying to get Complete Streets functioning in Stratford, we also had been working on that for the previous year.
Right.
But that had been on paper for probably a decade, because that is the whole concept. I just want to make sure everybody understands. The concept of the Greenway always was to create interconnected neighborhoods that could travel by walking and riding. So that was as far as I know, going back and looking at what the Greenway's idea was, the Housatonic River Greenway came about when there was much more of a trying to connect to regional greenways.
Harold, I just typed in chat window. I have to log off because I have another meeting which starts at 1. It's already 1:02. Thank you all. If you need any.
Thank you, Susmitha. Is there any chance you could send out that document that you mentioned, that the 3 documents, or put it up on the website? So try to read that, guys, before we have our next meeting. The new documents that Susmitha was discussing. Anything else, anybody? Will someone give me a motion to close?
So moved.
A second.
All in favor? Aye. I'll see you guys next week, or I'll see you in a matter of a couple weeks.
Good to see everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks,
Girls, for getting here.
Sure.
I have not heard from the Walk Connecticut or Ride Connecticut people yet.
Okay, so she just emailed, so I'll email you back.
Okay.
All right, cool.